Oregon town as Emily stands near the back gate of her large family home, trying to steady her breathing while calling Noah, asking him to come quickly before her father notices anything unusual, and though her words sound calm, the trembling in her voice reveals how nervous she truly is because her entire evening feels heavier than she expected, especially with the pressure of the project presentation that could influence her career. Her nickname Son, which she has used jokingly with Noah for years, slips out again, a small inside joke from their internship days, something harmless but personal, something that shows how close they have grown without crossing any inappropriate boundaries. Noah, already driving toward her house, senses something different in her tone, something softer and more emotional than simple worry, and he wonders if she is overwhelmed or afraid of disappointing her father, who has always expected perfection from her. As he gets closer, he sees the familiar old house lit by scattered porch lights, the kind of house that carries memories in every window, and he feels that familiar pull toward Emily, that feeling of wanting to help her, wanting to be there for her whenever she needs someone steady. He reaches the side gate, and before he can knock, Emily pulls it open and grabs his wrist, something she rarely does, and the warmth of her hand makes him realize how stressed she must be. She whispers that her father believes she is alone working on the project and she doesn't want him to think she invited someone because she isn't confident enough to handle things herself. Noah wants to tell her that nobody handles things alone forever, and that it's okay to lean on someone, but he stays quiet and just follows her through the narrow stone path that leads toward the back door. The air feels cold, and the sky is half covered with clouds, making the entire backyard look like a place where secrets hide in shadows, which only adds to the tension. Already building inside Emily's voice, she lets out a shaky breath as they stop behind a tall wooden railing, explaining that she asked Noah to come because her presentation has too many gaps, because her father spent his entire life building a reputation in business, and she doesn't want to let him down. Noah listens carefully, feeling a protective instinct rise in him, not romantic or inappropriate, but the deep kind of care that grows between two people who trust each other over years of shared experiences. He remembers their internship days, the late nights at the office, the jokes during coffee breaks, the way Emily always tried to push herself harder than necessary, sometimes forgetting to breathe, and tonight feels exactly like that. Another moment where she is carrying too much weight alone. Emily looks at him with tired eyes, the kind that reveal more truth than she usually allows herself to show, and he can tell she hasn't slept properly, probably hasn't eaten much either, because when she worries she loses focus on everything else. She explains that her father had been stricter lately, reminding her that the project presentation was not only an evaluation but also a chance to show that she could handle responsibility independently, and though she never says it directly, Noah can clearly see that she fears disappointing him more than anything. When she starts to talk about the marketing plan they built together, he notices her hands trembling slightly, not because she lacks skill, but because she feels the pressure of proving herself, and that pressure is heightened by the complicated bond she shares with her father, a man she respects deeply but also finds difficult to read. As they stand near the dimly lit back porch, Noah prepares to reassure her, but before he can say anything, a sudden noise comes from inside the house, a loud thud followed by footsteps, and both of them instantly freeze. The sound is sharp enough to startle them, and Emily's expression changes from relief to tense in just a second. She whispers that her father must be walking toward the back hallway, which means he might glance out the window at any moment, and if he sees Noah before she explains why he's there, it could create a misunderstanding she isn't prepared to handle tonight. Noah steps slightly behind her without thinking, not to hide anything inappropriate, because nothing about their interaction is wrong, but simply to give her time to manage the situation her way, because he knows she values staying in control around her family. Emily tries to listen carefully, holding her breath as the footsteps get louder, her heart pounding against her ribs, not because she's doing anything wrong, but because she fears the emotional pressure of her father questioning her judgment or doubting her independence. She glances at Noah with an expression filled with gratitude and worry at the same time, showing how conflicted she feels, and he suddenly realizes how long she has been carrying this pressure alone, how often she has pretended to be fine when she actually needed someone she trusted to stand beside her. The footsteps inside pause, making the silence feel even heavier, and for a moment they wait, barely breathing, hoping her father won't step outside. Noah's mind races through the memories of all the times Emily supported him when he felt stuck or unsure about his own career. And now, standing here in the chilly air, He feels a deep responsibility to be the same steady presence for her. Emily finally steps forward, slightly, trying to adjust her expression so she doesn't look shaken if her father opens the door, but the tension in her shoulders stays visible, giving away how much she has been hiding. When she turns back toward Noah, he can see a mix of determination and fear in her eyes, the kind that appears when someone is standing at the edge of something important, like a career breakthrough or a moment of personal growth. He tries to speak quietly, telling her that he came to help her for more than just the project, that he came because he cares about her well-being. But before he finishes, the shadow of someone moves behind the glass of the back door, making both of them tense again. The emotional weight in the air grows thicker as they stand there, unsure if her father will step out or call her name, unsure if this moment will turn into a difficult conversation or a narrow escape. Noah wonders how much longer Emily can keep holding everything alone, how much pressure she will force herself to carry before she finally lets herself be vulnerable with the people she trusts. And just as he tries to steady himself for whatever comes next, the doorknob inside rattles softly, a sound that feels like the start of a shift in the entire night, a signal that the situation is about to change, maybe for better, maybe for worse, but certainly in a way neither of them is prepared for, setting up the emotional turning point. The heavy echo of Emily's father's footsteps coming closer, each step slow and firm, carrying the energy of a man deep in thought, and the sound instantly pulls Emily and Noah into a moment of shared tension because they both know her father rarely leaves his office unless something important crosses his mind. Emily glances at Noah with eyes filled with both fear and trust, whispering urgently for him to stay behind her because she believes her father will not question anything if he sees her. First, instead of seeing Noah standing in the shadows of the backyard, she explains that her father respects Noah as a hard-working intern from years ago and sees him as someone responsible, someone who would never overstep boundaries, which gives Emily a small window of safety to explain why he is here without making the situation look suspicious. Noah nods, though his heart is pounding, not because he is guilty of anything but because he knows how serious Emily is when it comes to her father's expectations and how much pressure she places on herself to never appear irresponsible. The footsteps grow louder until her father appears at the doorway, his expression sharp yet tired, and Emily immediately steps forward with calm confidence, telling him that Noah came to help her review the final parts of her presentation. Noah supports the explanation with a polite nod, standing straight and respectful, hoping his presence will not create unnecessary questions. Her father looks between them for a moment, then gives a small approving nod, the kind that shows he is relieved his daughter is putting in effort. And without saying much, he tells them to continue working but not stay too late. After he leaves, the door left slightly open, the tension slowly escapes from Emily's shoulders as she exhales a long breath she had been holding for too long. She turns toward Noah, her voice soft and shaky, saying that she didn't want her father to assume she wasn't focused, and Noah realizes how deeply she fears disappointing him, not because her father is harsh but because she respects him more than she admits out loud. The cold night air wraps around them again, and as they walk toward the patio table where Emily had spread her notes earlier, Noah notices how her hands tremble slightly, not from fear of being caught but from the emotional weight she carries, the fear of failure, the fear of not being enough, the fear of letting down someone she loves. He gently asks her why she didn't call him earlier if she was so stressed, and she tries to smile but her voice cracks as she says she didn't want to bother him, didn't want to seem like she couldn't handle the project alone, didn't want to appear weak, but tonight everything became too much for her. She admits she has been trying to act strong around everyone, especially her father, because she wants him to be proud of her, wants him to see her as capable of standing on her own. But lately, she has been feeling unsure, overwhelmed, and afraid of making a mistake she can't fix. Noah listens with full attention, the same way he did years ago when she would talk about her goals and fears during late-night office breaks, and he feels the same steady instinct to support her, not out of obligation but out of the deep care that naturally grows between two people who have trusted each other for years. He tells her she doesn't have to pretend around him, that she is allowed to feel pressure, allowed to get help, allowed to lean on someone without losing her strength, and the sincerity in his voice nearly brings tears to her eyes. For a moment she sits silently, trying to gather the courage to speak the thoughts she has hidden for so long, thoughts about how much she relies on Noah, how much comfort his presence brings her, how often he has been the quiet strength behind her achievements. She finally says in a whisper that he's the only person who makes her feel calm when everything falls apart, the only one who listens without judgment, the only one who understands how much she struggles even when she looks strong. And this confession softens the air between them, creating a quiet emotional closeness based not on romance but on deep trust and long-built friendship. Noah feels a subtle shift inside him, a moment where he realizes that his support has meant far more to her than he ever knew, and that revelation strengthens his resolve to help her through whatever comes next. As they sit together reviewing her presentation slides, the wind grows colder, brushing against the papers and making them flutter. But instead of slowing down, Emily pushes herself to focus, reading parts aloud, asking questions, correcting small mistakes, and Noah helps her with the fast-paced determination she remembers from their internship projects. The two of them work in a steady rhythm, their minds synchronized, their instincts matching, the same way they always did when they teamed up on anything important. But beneath the surface, Emily's nerves continue to build, and Noah can sense it through the slight tremble in her voice, the way she bites her lip while reading, the way her eyes keep shifting toward the house as if she expects her father to appear again. When they reach a complicated part of the project, Emily pauses, overwhelmed by self-doubt, saying she feels like she isn't good enough for the expectations placed on her. And Noah immediately tells her she is far better than she believes, reminding her of her dedication, her intelligence, her perseverance, and all the obstacles she overcame in the past. His words help her breathe again, but just as she starts to regain confidence, her phone vibrates on the table, the sudden light cutting through the darkness, and she quickly picks it up, expecting a message from a colleague instead. Her eyes widen as she reads it, and her expression changes from hopeful to anxious in an instant. Noah leans forward, asking what happened, and she shows him the message saying that the company moved the final review earlier, forcing her to face everything sooner than expected. The pressure she has been avoiding suddenly hits her all at once, and she steps back in shock. Gripping the edge of the table as if steadying herself, Noah instantly moves closer, keeping his voice calm, reassuring her that they still have time, that they can finish everything tonight, that she won't face this challenge alone. Emily tries to hold in her panic, but her voice shakes as she explains that if she fails tomorrow, her father will think she wasn't ready, wasn't focused, wasn't capable, and that fear breaks something inside her. Her eyes fill with tears she tries to hide, but Noah sees them, sees the exhaustion, the pressure, the emotional weight that has been building for months, and he gently reaches out, telling her again that she is not alone, not tonight, not ever when she needs him. She looks at him with deep gratitude, overwhelmed by the comfort he brings, and all the unspoken emotions between them grow stronger in that silent moment. Not romantic, not inappropriate, but deeply human, deeply supportive, deeply meaningful. But before either of them can say anything more, a bright light suddenly turns on inside the living room, bathing the backyard in a faint glow, and the silhouette of her father appears clearly through the window, standing still as if he senses something happening outside. Emily stiffens, Noah's heart jumps, and the atmosphere shifts instantly from emotional vulnerability to tense uncertainty. She grabs Noah's hand without thinking, her voice barely a whisper as she begs him not to leave her alone in this moment because everything feels like it is closing in at once. The tense moment right after Emily receives the message from the company, and the shock from it shakes her entire confidence because the final review is happening much sooner than she expected, and everything she has been trying to prepare suddenly feels unfinished, rushed, and unstable. She tries to take a breath but her hands tremble as she holds the phone, the weight of the news hitting her like a sudden wave she didn't see coming, and Noah immediately notices the fear in her eyes, the kind of fear that comes when someone who has been strong for too long finally feels the pressure reaching a breaking point. He steps closer without hesitation, keeping his voice steady and calm, telling her they will fix everything, they will prepare together, and she will not face any of it alone. But Emily can hardly focus on his words because her mind is already imagining the worst-case scenarios, imagining her father's disappointment, imagining the last-minute chaos of the upcoming morning, imagining herself standing unprepared in front of people who expect perfection. She leans against the wooden railing behind her as if the physical pressure in her chest is too much to handle while standing straight, and Noah watches her with deep concern, realizing how much emotional weight she has been carrying silently for months. She tries to speak but her voice cracks as she explains that her father's expectations have grown even heavier since he trusted her with this project, and she has been afraid of showing any weakness, afraid that he would think she wasn't ready to take on real responsibility, afraid that she would let him down after all the hard work he has put into guiding her. Noah listens carefully, understanding that this isn't just about a job or a presentation but about years of trying to prove herself, years of trying to meet standards set by someone she respects deeply, years of pushing herself to appear strong even when she feels overwhelmed. He knows how much she struggles to admit vulnerability, how much she hides behind confidence even when her heart is shaking, and now, seeing the truth spill through her shaking voice, his instinct to protect her grows even stronger. He tells her that nobody succeeds by doing everything alone, that asking for help does not make her weak, that she has support whether she admits it or not, and his words soften her expression for a moment as she tries to calm herself down, but just when she begins to breathe normally again, the bright lights from the living room turn on. Suddenly, shining through the wide glass window and making both of them freeze. In that moment, everything becomes sharper. The cold air, the sound of leaves rustling, the tension sitting heavy between them, and the fear of what her father might think if he sees the two of them outside together at such a late hour. Emily's heart jumps painfully as she sees her father's silhouette standing clearly behind the window, his posture stiff and alert, as if he senses something happening outside. Noah feels his pulse race because he knows how fragile this moment is, how easily misunderstandings can rise when emotions run high, and how much Emily fears unwanted questions that could make her look distracted from her work. Emily grabs Noah's hand without thinking, her fingers cold and tense as she whispers urgently for him not to leave, not to disappear now when everything is crashing down at once, because she suddenly realizes she needs someone next to her more than she ever admitted before. She explains in a shaking voice that she doesn't want to face her father alone right now, not because she is hiding something wrong but because she is afraid that one wrong expression or one nervous sigh might make her father think she isn't ready for tomorrow, and that fear feels bigger than anything else in this moment. Noah squeezes her hand softly, giving her silent reassurance, telling her he will stay right beside her, and that gesture gives her enough strength to take a slow breath even. As her father's shadow moves closer to the window, the two of them stand in tense silence, waiting for what might come next, their minds racing through possibilities, and though the moment is filled with anxiety, there is also a deep sense of connection between them, a connection born from trust, loyalty, and emotional support built over years of shared struggles, not romantic, not inappropriate, but meaningful and strong in the way two adults can rely on one another during difficult moments. Emily whispers that she feels guilty for calling him so late, for dragging him into her stress, but Noah shakes his head gently, telling her that helping someone he cares about is never a burden, and his sincerity makes her eyes soften despite the tension around them. She tries to gather her thoughts, forcing herself to focus on the upcoming review rather than the overwhelming moment they are trapped in, and Noah helps her by reminding her of the strengths she has shown throughout the project, reminding her of how much effort she has already put into preparing, and reminding her that she is far more capable than she believes. Slowly, her breathing evens out, and a bit of confidence begins to return to her posture, though the fear of her father noticing them still hangs heavy in the air. The sound of her father shifting inside the house echoes faintly into the backyard, making her flinch, and Noah instinctively steps slightly closer, not to hide anything but to offer silent emotional support. Emily wipes a small tear from the corner of her eye, embarrassed by how emotional she became, but Noah reassures her again that pressure affects everyone, and breakdowns are a natural part of big responsibilities, not a sign of failure. She looks at him with gratitude, realizing that his calm presence has carried her through some of the hardest moments she never acknowledged because she was too busy trying to act strong, and this realization shifts something inside her, giving her the courage to face whatever comes next. Suddenly, her father's silhouette steps even closer to the window, and the tension spikes again as Emily holds Noah's hand tighter, preparing herself for the possibility that her father might step outside any second. She whispers that if he does, she will explain everything honestly, that Noah is only helping her prepare, nothing more, nothing inappropriate or suspicious, but her voice still shakes because she knows how fragile the situation looks from the outside. Noah nods, ready to support her no matter how uncomfortable things get, and the two of them brace themselves in silence, listening for her father's footsteps, waiting for his reaction. But instead of stepping outside, her father slowly turns away, walking deeper into the living room, giving them a few precious seconds of peace. Emily finally exhales a long breath she had been holding, and her knees feel weak from the adrenaline rushing through her body. Noah helps her sit down on the bench nearby so she doesn't lose her balance from the stress. She tells him quietly that tonight changed something inside her, that she realized she can't live in fear of disappointing others forever, that she needs to trust herself and the people who genuinely want to help her. And Noah gives her a small supportive smile that warms the cold air around them. He tells her that no matter how tough tomorrow is, she will walk into that room with strength because everything she needs is already inside her: her hard work, her intelligence, her dedication, and her courage. Emily nods slowly, absorbing every word, and even though the night is heavy and stressful, she begins to feel a sense of determination quietly building inside her, the kind of determination that could carry her through tomorrow's challenges. Noah stands with her, ready to help her prepare, ready to go through every slide and every detail until she feels confident, and together they walk back toward the small outdoor table where her papers are scattered, knowing the night is far from over but also knowing they will face it side by side. As she sits down and opens her laptop, the sound of her father closing a door inside the house reminds them that time is limited, pressure is real, and tomorrow will test everything Emily believes about herself. But for the first time tonight, she feels strong enough to face it because she is no longer carrying the weight alone.